This is Keys to the Shop, episode 440, Pitfalls to Fear in Coffee. Well, hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Keys to the Shop, where we give you insights, inspiration, and the tools you need to grow as a coffee service professional. My name is Chris DeFerio, and I'm your host for the show. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and don't forget to subscribe to the show. Share these episodes with a friend, with your team, especially on social media, and leave a 5-star rating or review over on Apple Podcasts. That means a huge amount to me, and it really helps the show as well. Now, on top of doing the podcast, I also offer one-on-one coaching and consultation with coffee shop owners to help them either start their coffee shop on the right foot and to help you find freedom and profitability in the running of your coffee shop. And I've worked with so many people over the years in both categories, and I would love to have a conversation with you to see if working with Keys to the Shop Consulting is the right fit for where you are right now in your coffee journey. Just email chris@keystotheshop.com. We'll have a conversation, set up a free discovery call, and I can't wait to talk to you. Now, I got to mention that coming up in the month of March next year is going to be a time for applications that are going to be opened for keyholder coaching groups. This is a new offering from Keys to the Shop. This is a group coaching mastermind scenario where coffee shop owners, 6 to 7 cafe owners, gather together to help encourage each other, hold each other accountable, give insights and inspiration. And we've been doing this for the past few weeks now with the inaugural group here, and it's been so rewarding and very effective. So happy with it. Now, I would really love to see your name on the list of people that I will send access to the application to ahead of when it's open to the public. If you want to get on that list for keyholder coaching groups, just email chris@keystotheshop.com. And applications, again, are going to be opened up in March, and we should be starting the next round of groups around the end of March or so next year. So chris@keystotheshop.com. Now, one of the sponsors of today's episode is Ground Control. And the Ground Control over at groundcontrol.coffee. This is the group behind the Ground Control Cyclops brewer, the iconic brewer that is turning the world upside down, leveling up what we can expect from batch brew technology that creates not only amazing batch brew, like next level batch brew, but also the extraction technology that's SCA award-winning technology, gives you the ability to make things like concentrates for iced lattes, and also 8-minute cold brew. These types of applications of the Ground Control have been used for all sorts of different avenues of profitability for coffee shops around the world. Their new brewer is out now, and it is 45% less than the Cyclops brewer with early bird special pricing. And it's also much shorter. It's 24 inches high, and it boasts 30% higher volume for batch espresso and cold brew concentrates, and it's connected to a cloud-connected smart dispenser. It actually tracks all your brewing data. This machine keeps getting better and better, and so does your coffee as a result. So if you're looking to elevate your quality, to open up profitability opportunities, and look really slick doing it, go get yourself a Ground Control brewer at groundcontrol.coffee. Now, today's episode is also brought to you by the Barista series from Pacific, the line of plant-based performance beverages created for baristas and is just approved by some of the best baristas in the world. It's tested by them before any of their extensive lineup actually makes it onto the shelves and in your hands. This is why they are the leaders in plant-based beverages worldwide, because of the intentionality that goes into every beverage. Go to pacificfoodservice.com to find out more information and get samples sent to you and try it for yourself. If you're looking for the best plant-based beverages for your customers, I truly think you should be trying the Barista series from Pacific. All right, everybody. Well, today I feel like this was, something that I had in mind. I was actually sick, so if you hear a little bit of congestion, it's because I've been under the weather. But when I become under the weather, I actually get a really deep voice, but that has passed, and it sounded super spooky, and I wanted to do the episode with a spooky voice, but turns out, that only was a day or so. So the window has closed on that. Lucky you. But, sometimes I like to do a Halloween special. A couple of years back, maybe we did like the grossest stories that people had from working the bar. And boy, some really gross stories were there. So I'll link to that in the show notes. But today I wanted to talk about some of the things that we should legitimately be afraid of in coffee. We could call this, things to be scared of in coffee, or what's scary about coffee. But the whole point here is that there's a lot that we are going to look at and say, I'm not looking forward to that, or it's something that legitimately could harm you. And this is not going to be so much about like health necessarily. I mean, you don't want to burn yourself. You don't want to like lift with your back and not with your legs and that kind of stuff. I'm talking about things that will actually submarine your careers, things that you should be actually concerned about. What's lurking around the corner here? If I don't watch out, if I'm not aware of my surroundings, if I'm not vigilant, then these things are going to get me. There's something out there that's going to get you. And I'm not one to necessarily promote that kind of thing, but I do think there's some legitimate areas of your career and the industry that we need to be aware of. And today I wanted to talk about a few of those things. And then the first one is the industry. The industry, as it's described, is this impersonal, amorphous entity or force that we tend to describe when we want to be a little bit more general, but also have some kind of force behind our comments. All right, so let's go in through the list a little bit here and things you should be scared of in coffee. And I think the first thing that you should be scared of is the industry itself. The industry is nothing. The industry is a collection of people that collectively make up the industry. And when we give too much attention to the industry, then what we end up doing is we don't pay attention to what it is that we have in front of us. This happens all the time. This leads to comparison because we want to have a standard against which we can judge our success that is not as nuanced as the relationships and the people we have right in front of us and the menus that we serve in our cafes. And so the industry turns into this thing, this impersonal force, like I said, that has command over us, like it's taken over us. And we have to get tuned into all these reports and all of these trends. And we feel like we can't open a coffee shop unless, we got those things in our back pocket. And we feel like we need to keep up with the Joneses, I guess, globally and even nationally. But what we do, and what's scary about this, is that we take all of our energy and we put it into worrying about where we are in the industry versus where we are in our community. And as a result, we miss out. It's weird because the FOMO we have, the fear of missing out that we have related to the industry, is the very thing that will actually cause us to miss out on success because we have been looking the wrong direction. We've been so worried about this industry that we're not thinking about what's real. The industry is not real. The industry is everybody's real experiences collectively. Now, sure, there's some data that can help, of course, but we got to put it in the right perspective. We have to put it in the right order. And the industry is something that you are a part of, but that you do not have to be subservient to. Okay, so another pitfall that we have to be aware of in the industry is hubris. And we are told that this kind of thing is actually an asset. It's not a bug, it's a feature of entrepreneurship. You're supposed to be this bombastic, full of pride, arrogant person because that's how you just make it happen, And that's just not the case because in order to be successful, you need actually humility. Humility is not just about making sure you are comfortable with the things that you are limited in, but also comfortable in the things that you are good at as well. It doesn't beg people to, in any kind of outsized way, recognize either one. It's just a matter of fact. It's basically just telling the truth about your situation. And so when it comes to hubris, so many people are undone as a result. They don't listen. They won't receive correction. They're very touchy. They are, my way or the highway. These are the dictator type of owners of coffee shops that are all about the hustle, but not about the nuance. The humility aspect is a weakness. That's a weakness. Why would I be humble? I have to be strong. I have to be knowledgeable. I have to know everything. I have to do everything. That is a great way to burn yourself out and everyone else out. So hubris is one of those things that we cling to because we are kind of bombarded in our culture with that's kind of what you should do. And it's because we don't have patience. We lack patience in the process of becoming. And so we put out there verbally and posture ourselves as if we've already arrived. And that immediately starts this huge dance where it's basically like Halloween night. You're just dressed up like a character, but you don't have character. You're dressed up like this person, but that's not who you are. And you will not become something if you're pretending to be something else. I hope this really lands well, because this is what we end up becoming as an industry. Either we're going to be people who are genuine and humble and can be comfortable in our position of ability and vulnerable in our inability or lack of knowledge and on our way to becoming, or we're going to build ourselves in such a way that's just very shaky. And that's why so much of the industry that we look to is shaky. And, it's not made up of a group of people who are comparing themselves against themselves. They're all kind of playing a part that they know is partly not the case. It's not true. You know everything, but you're making it seem like you do because you're putting on a mask and you think you're going to get a treat for it, but you're really not going to. You're trying to trick everybody and you're trying to trick yourself, trying to fool yourself, and it's just not going to work out. So that's something I feel is definitely something to look out for. It's a pitfall in career in general. As a result of this, by the way, something else that you should be fearful of, either doing this or being in the presence of or in the employment of this, is insecure bosses. It leads to a lot of insecurity. There's a little insecurity that always happens. There's a little imposter syndrome that always happens when you go to the next level. That, our aptitude to do the next thing is limited. And so there's a learning process. That's not the same as pretending as though you are already there in such a prideful way as we were talking about. People who do that end up being very insecure. And as an insecure person, everything is a threat. So what's the scariest thing to an insecure person? A secure one. Somebody who maybe depends on you and their dependency causes you to recognize your inabilities. And that is a threat to you. A barista depends on you. A barista or a trainer or your direct report of any kind looks to you and they ask you a question. And in the course of asking that question, what they do is they actually touch a nerve. Very sensitive, very insecure. It's like that thing that you wish you were good at, but you're not, and they ask you about it. And what I see happen over and over again is that it becomes their problem and not yours. Okay, because you've not allowed yourself to admit that you don't know something, and your insecurity is now being projected onto others as blaming them. If you're in the employ of somebody like this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Everything is dramatic. And the reason why it's dramatic is because that's what's going on inside that person's head. You can become this person if you're not practicing self-awareness. Everything is a threat. So you become paranoid. You always feel like somebody is implying something. What do you mean by that? Why did you say that? This is going to happen. That's going to happen. You're going to steal from me. You meant this. You were being insubordinate. Everything is always a threat. That's really scary. As with anything, like a kid says there's a monster under my bed, it's exactly the same as a boss saying the baristas are out to get me. It's not usually true. What is true is that paranoia comes from a place of insecurity that is born from habits of defaulting to fantasy and not being vulnerable and embracing imperfections as a part of the process to reach higher levels of imperfections. So, this is definitely something to be scared of becoming, right? It's like getting bit by a zombie. Just don't do it. Don't get bit by this thing because it spreads. And then all you want to do after you get bit by it is bite someone else. Let them join the group. And then you just get this coffee shop environment where everybody is commiserating and, everything is down. And We walk into coffee bars like this all the time. Usually it comes from the insecurity of leadership spreading to the rest of the community. And, where are we then? So yeah, let's be very afraid of that. I think that insecurity that we have, like I said, in a certain acceptable dose of insecurity is fine, but we can get so touchy and so paranoid that it becomes truly toxic. And I know the word toxic is just like, maybe we're tired of hearing the word toxic, but there are certain things that are toxic, and that's one of them. So to avoid this, I think you're definitely going to want to make a practice of sitting and, thinking about what it is that you're doing daily to project either something positive or something negative. Have you really embraced the process of becoming, or are you just wanting to skip ahead to be pretending to be something without, allowing the process to shape you and mold you? Especially as a leader, you aren't going to be the perfect leader at first. It's a learning process. Anybody who puts a manager in place in their coffee shop knows this, that the manager needs to take a seat and listen first, to study, to understand, and to then deliver great service to those that they are leading. And that is an act of service. Management is an act of service to baristas, and training is an act of service to trainees, and owning a coffee shop is an act of service to your community and the people who work at your coffee bar. And so in order to serve well, you need to be a student of those you serve and the context in which you serve. So the curiosity, the humility, all the stuff that I've just described beforehand is very, very important to inoculate you against the idea of being this insecure kind of zombie boss, if you will. The next thing I want to say in terms of what you should be fearful of and a pitfall to avoid is not having boundaries and overcommitting. I love coffee so much, it scares me. Why would it scare me? Because I will do the jobs that nobody else will do. And in one part of my head, I'm just like, you know what? That is noble. That is great. Go ahead, do it. And then guess what? Everyone's going to count on you to do it all the time. And nobody has to do it after you because you've already done it. This is something that crops up for both owners and for employees. An owner who is vested in the business as nobody else is, it always just infuriates me to hear staff talk about a coffee shop in a way that makes it seem as though they have an equal stake in the coffee shop emotionally, etc., as the owner does. It is just not the case. The risk is so much greater with the owner, and there'll never be somebody who cares as much about the business succeeding, it is true, than the person who started it. And the two people care differently about the business. That's just the way it is. And owners are much maligned in the industry. Some of it is because they have succumbed to some of the insecurities that we were talking about, some of the toxic behaviors, etc. And owners of coffee bar are just an easy target for people, unfortunately. And a caveat here, we always say this, like, it is a spirit of mutuality that gets us forward. Work for the success of your boss. Boss, work for the success of your staff. We need both. It's just the case. All right. Now, back to the idea of overcommitment and boundaries. The commitment to make the business work often means that you're not going to delegate. You're not going to give other people things to do because you can do it better yourself. You'd rather do it the way you want it done than train somebody to do it and see them not do it the right way the first few times, which is absolutely the lazy way out. And I'm not saying that you are lazy. I'm saying that choice, you have two choices. You have one, to invest in the long-term success of your business, to delegate to others and draw boundaries for yourself. Not to try to get out of work that you should be doing, but you need to be able to parse out and manage the work using the people that have agreed to work with you in the business responsibly. And that's just not a responsible way to go about it. So obviously delegation is huge. And not only that, but the idea that you need to create boundaries between yourself and the business so that you can get perspective. You're going to burn yourself out if you don't allow yourself time away from the business, even if it's a sacrifice to do so. The asset here is not the business. It is you. Okay. You started it, and we all need you to be healthy, and you know that you want that as well. And because of your commitment to make this work, It's that very commitment that can cause you to overcommit, to spend a very unhealthy amount of time obsessing, and that burnout becomes very real. Now, that's true also for baristas and managers and other people in coffee who are career coffee people. I've done this myself where I thought I'm just going to work harder. If you haven't listened to Greg McEwen's Effortless podcast that we did a little bit ago, link in the show notes as well, then do so. Because that's my response to a lot of things is often I will do the double. I will do this. I will go out there and I will chip away at the grime that is in the corner of the cafe or on the sidewalk. And I'm going to throw myself into it because I want to see it done and I want it to be right. And so I'm going to make it right. And to a degree, again, all things taken with a grain of salt here, that's a great attitude, I think. A professional gets it done. But a professional can also add to their job things that are not their job in order to prove themselves. They can go above and beyond so far that they're beyond saving. And that burnout becomes very real. You go from 40 to 50 to 60. I was at one point working 70 hours a week, and I was not the owner of the shop. I was just Chris is doing everything. And because Chris really loves coffee, and I thought, well, if I really love coffee, I'm going to do everything. And the boss at the time was more than happy to allow me to work 70 hours a week. And I, for some reason, was okay with that as well. But my family suffered as a result. I suffered as a result. And to be honest with you, I bet you the business suffered as a result too. Not because I was doing a bad job necessarily, but it didn't really allow the business to show its true needs because I was just plugging holes all over the place. And sometimes those things need to become so glaring that they get solutions that are beyond just covering them up and fighting fires. We need fire prevention, but you're not going to know you need fire prevention unless you actually can detect it. And I'm just like going around keeping the facade up, trying to prove myself, but not allowing the evidence for the need that the business has to gather to any degree without me panicking and just doing something about it. In the future, I got better at that and started to recognize problems as things that needed a better solution through investigation and a measured approach to find a long-term solution, not just quickly, let's get rid of this. It's, awkward and I don't want to deal with it anymore. So let's just have a temporary solution right now that's going to take me, away from my family and my kids' recital and all this other stuff. We don't need more of that in coffee. We need to take problems as slow as we can take them so that we can make solutions that eliminate those problems from repeating in the future. The scary thing is that we will tell ourselves that the actual best way is the opposite. The actual best way is to throw yourself at it and to sacrifice your body, throw yourself on the grenade. And that just doesn't do anything except for take you out of commission eventually. So that, to me, that's pretty scary, having lived it myself. Now, the last thing I want to talk about here in terms of what to be afraid of and the pitfalls of the industry in coffee is the enmity that we develop between ourselves and groups of other people that are basically in the same community. I'm talking about the groups of people like the managers and the staff, the kitchen and front of house, the customers and the employees, the coffee nerds and the normies or just the regular customers, that kind of stuff. Our minds create these divisions. And then we go seeking in our confirmation bias to find other people who will agree with us about these divisions and say, aren't those customers stupid? Geez, isn't the boss stupid? These coffee nerds, they act like they know so much. Oh, I hate them. And we love to hate people for some reason. We love to just lump people into these categories and say, it's us against them. And we wouldn't admit that that's exactly what we're doing because we, in each instance, with each brick that we're building that wall with, each brick by itself looks like that's nothing. That's nothing. Just a thought, just a comment, just a little gossip session behind the sink, just a thread on the text app and whatever. It's not a big deal. But that all creates your reality. And it's scary because then when we say, oh, we're all about hospitality, except for those people, we say, oh, we're so accepting and welcoming, except for all the people that we've put on the list, the unofficial list. It's out there. We understand it. It's unwritten, but we throttle our own success by limiting how we interact with other people based on the group they belong to. And I'm not talking about things as overt as socioeconomic or political or whatever, racial or whatever, that kind of thing. I'm just talking about the roles people play in this thing we call the coffee shop, the coffee roastery, or the kitchen, and that kind of stuff. We're all on the same team. We're all there. But what we do is this inner voice says, you should register this little thing about that person, put it aside, and the next time you see them, you should interpret them through that lens. And because of that, it becomes hard to serve them. And all of a sudden, you find yourself getting passed up for promotions because you have become this sour individual, because now everybody's getting on your nerves. Everyone's your enemy. Oh, it's all their fault too. It's not because you have built up this fictional case against people. And truly, I do think I'm not this type of person that says you shouldn't have emotions or you shouldn't have any sensitivities, but there is a degree to which we have the ability to be way oversensitive and read into things way more than we actually should. And so that should scare us, because that will have a negative impact on your own career, on your teammates. And if you think you're there as a representative of the coffee value chain, and you want to represent this coffee well, you want to represent farmers well, and all of these things, then you should take a page from the playbook of the farmer and tend to your field, your mind field. Get rid of all the weeds. Get rid of all the mines. Get rid of all the stuff that's going to accidentally trip you up, and operate with charitable assumption. Operate with generosity, trusting that you're building something that is solid and it's not based on what you hate. It's based on what you love. You're not basing your professional persona in your work on the avoidance of things that irritate you, but you are basically becoming an alchemist who is able to take less than ideal things that may act like grit against you, and you can see that it's actually something that's smoothing you out. And you can be mature enough to see that the result is that your rough edges are being smoothed out by that friction. Friction is a good thing. This is part of working, is what you become through it. And it's how you interpret these hardships. So you can either interpret things negatively and become negative yourself and become the thing you hate yourself, or you can do it the opposite way. You can choose the light side of things, right? The way that Greg McEwen, again, was talking about. And I think that's something that we need to focus on as we go on, as baristas, as trainers, as owners. It is a hard thing to do. I am 100% not perfect at it, whether at home or, just in my work today, but I'm in the process of becoming. So in keeping with the theme of today, these are things that I think we should be and would do well to be a little bit fearful of. Walk with wisdom around these things, because they're coming. You're going to be pulled in these directions. If you haven't already been, you're going to be. So that's what I want to share with you today. Hope you found it to be a helpful episode. Please do subscribe to Keys to the Shop, as we have amazing episodes coming up. After this one, on the 7th, we have Layla Gambari, a U.S. barista champion, coffee consultant, talking about operational excellence. And we've got lots of other great episodes coming up as well. Tell your friends about Keys to the Shop. Tell your groups. Share the episodes online and spread the word. The coffee industry is so big, and there are so many coffee shops that don't yet know about the large library of content and resources available to them to help them in running a great coffee shop. So it would be awesome for you to do that. Thank you so much, everybody. And as always, I hope that this episode has truly given you keys to the shop.